Somewhere in the deep ocean, a British submarine is gliding through pitch-black water. Since April 1969, at least one of these nuclear-armed vessels has been hidden at sea every single minute of every day. To keep that streak alive, the UK is executing a multi-billion-pound renewal program called the National Endeavour. They are transitioning from their aging Vanguard-class submarines to a new fleet known as the Dreadnought-class. Building these machines requires a significant domestic footprint. By 2030, the defense nuclear enterprise will demand a workforce of 65,000 people and a supply chain of around 3,000 companies, pumping investment into facilities like the Barrow-in-Furness shipyard. This chart maps the estimated trajectory of nuclear arsenals globally. We can see a projected expansion in China, expected to more than double its warhead count by 2035, alongside heavy Russian investment in dual-capable weapon systems that can carry both conventional and nuclear loads. The UK government points to this evolving threat to justify the cost. The official position is that this sovereign capability is the final backstop for national security, the one weapon intended to deter the most extreme acts of aggression. But applying the word independent to this deterrent requires a few asterisks. In an era of volatile alliances, Britain's sovereign defense actually relies on a physical, logistical connection to a foreign power. To understand what the UK actually controls, we break down the deterrent into three components: platform, warhead, and missile. The Hull and Rolls-Royce reactors are UK-built, and the Astrea warheads are a sovereign British design. The chain of command is also domestic. Only the British Prime Minister can authorize a launch, and that instruction is transmitted using exclusively UK codes and equipment. Once that order is given, the submarine does not need permission from the US Global Positioning System to find its target. The missiles do not use GPS to navigate. On an operational level, the Prime Minister has the authority to fire the weapon without any foreign interference. But that operational freedom hits a wall when we look at the delivery system. The UK does not own its missiles. Instead, it buys into a shared pool of American-built Trident II D5 missiles. Logistically, every few years, these missiles must be removed from British submarines and shipped across the Atlantic to Lockheed Martin in the US for maintenance. The UK also purchases critical structural components, like re-entry aeroshells, directly from America. This creates a hard physical limit on Britain's independence. If Washington ever decided to sever this maintenance and supply loop, the UK's deterrent would eventually degrade into irrelevance. So why doesn't the UK eliminate this vulnerability? They could build their own missiles, partner with France, or form a shared European pool. Building a domestic submarine-launched ballistic missile industry from scratch would be a decades-long endeavor. The US already has advantages in design and production that the UK simply cannot match on its own. Partnering with France poses different problems. Their submarine technology is built on a different technical foundation, and tying British defense to Paris carries political risks, especially with politicians who oppose sharing nuclear capabilities. A shared European nuclear pool hits a similar wall. France has consistently refused to accept financial support from allies out of concern that it would restrict control over their weapons. The UK is boxed in by economies of scale. Relying on the United States is the only financially viable path to keeping a continuous nuclear presence at sea. Britain operates its own submarines, builds its own warheads, and commands its own launch sequence. Yet the entire system rests on a foundation of American maintenance and supply. That dependency carries risk. With shifting American foreign policy, including proposals to scale back commitments to NATO allies, that transatlantic logistical tether looks increasingly fragile. Because the UK needs American missiles to make its deterrent work, it maintains close political alignment with Washington on broader NATO and European defense strategies. Despite these risks, the UK is not pulling away. By pouring tens of billions of pounds into the new Dreadnought-class, they are committing to this arrangement for the next half-century. This is the reality of nuclear deterrence for mid-sized powers. Developing and maintaining these systems is so resource-intensive that there are no cheap or easy alternatives to superpower alignment. To maintain this level of nuclear power, Britain accepts a permanent constraint. Its most powerful weapon remains physically bound to the United States.